What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the In the Dome podcast. Dude, what an interview. Robyn Regehr. We already knew he was a certified beauty, but just confirmed. Um, Very insightful, great talker, open book when it comes to, the ins and outs of his career. And we get into Daryl Sutter near the end. It does a great breakdown of how that man's mind operates and what you need to do to play for a coach like that. Just a solid interview.
Yeah, what a great guy. I don't really get nervous with guests, but dude, I was freaking nervous.
Yes, you do.
Robyn Regehr.
We're watching the Tunnel of Doom highlights for the like eighth time last night. Just destroying,
Just
obliterating, owning
murder. Like it's so
Alashevsky.
violent, it's almost alarming. Even as somebody who like loves hitting and stuff. Those hits he throws, just like bash his face right into the
Yeah,
stanchion.
there's that one where he just sucks him into the tunnel and then
He
just
just rides him just like, oh, it's
forces the back of
crazy.
his head right into the corner of the boards. Fuck.
Wild.
Hemsky must have just fucking hated playing against Regehr in the Flames.
Anyways, what
We also get into just the team identity that Daryl set forth and how it's just you'll hear it in the interview. We know we talk about it on this podcast, team identity. Connie talks about it now, that lunch bucket team and what it actually means. But hearing feedback from other players around the league that confirm that, yeah, it was a fucking bitch to play in Calgary. Just fucking love hearing that.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying, like, I kept saying, like, I miss that era of guys who like not only wanted to be in Calgary but played hard, wanted to kill the other team. That's really what when it comes down to what we love about that 2004 team was. That's how they played.
He's also obviously following the league and following the Flames. He's in the
Super
know
insightful.
of where this team currently is on the path they're heading. So, without further ado, here's our interview with Robyn Regehr, the legend.
I live just outside of Calgary, and I'm no playoffs for so long, and then 2004 happens, and it was just like gather around the TV, and it was just like the best experience of anybody's life up to that point in sports. So it was pretty
Still has
special
been.
and still has been, unfortunately.
Well, if you look back on the bigger picture, the Flames had been in the playoffs previously, and then I came here 1999 was my first year, 2000, and if you remember back to those times, like it wasn't a good time for any Canadian team. You had
Yeah.
kind of a 62-cent dollar, I think, was the lowest it went. You had Save the Flames campaign. You had 9, 10,000 fans in the rink. Like it was a tough time for the Flames, and our team wasn't very good. Like you have to look at it like we were awful here at that time, and then some things changed. Daryl Sutter came in 2003, I think it was, and we started making some improvements, made some trades. But that was the first time we'd been in the playoffs for a long time in 2004. So I think people were really excited about that, first of all. And for me personally, like I'd never been in the Stanley Cup playoffs before, so I was very, very excited about playing some better hockey, some more physical hockey, more intensity. Like I love playoff hockey. I loved my experience with it. And then we went on that magical run with mainly Mika and Jerome putting the team on their back, but with other players kind of stepping up at key moments. But just to see the city come alive with that excitement, and eventually the province, and then Western Canada, and then all of Canada supporting us, it was a really, really cool experience to be part of. And unfortunately, we did fall a little bit short, which was a really tough pill to swallow. But overall, like the experience was amazing.
Yeah, you can't, and I'm sure you can't help make long-lasting bonds during a run like that. I mean, I know the fans have. We still talk about it, right? It's the crowning memory that we have. We've been a Flames fan past what the '90s. So, do you still keep in touch with all those guys?
I still keep in touch with with a good chunk of them. Lots of them have moved away though. That whether it's to the US or, back to Europe. But, I still talk to guys on the phone occasionally, like a guy like Jordan Leopold, who, I was his D partner, and that, hey, how's it going? And, for him and his wife and family, they've got 4 kids, I believe, and they're busy in Minnesota. They bought an event space there, and they're working at that, and he's involved. He's a engaged dad with the family. But you keep in touch as much as you can. But people have other things going on in life too. For example, like I always look at it as a bit of a chapter in a book. In that, hockey for me was a very fun, exciting chapter. But there's lots of life left to live after you're done. A lot of times you're done at late 20s, early 30s, and
Yeah.
there's majority of your life left to go. So you kind of turn the page and kind of start a new chapter. And I think that's what a lot of guys have done. Some stay in hockey, that they have a passion for that. And that's one avenue. But I'm really excited for the guys that kind of take a different path, and such as Jordan and his wife, who bought that event space, and have started a business and done something completely different. I think that's really cool and exciting.
Yeah, well, sports is kind of the microcosm of life, right? The winning and losing, and you gotta stretch and you gotta push and you gotta have successes and failures, and it translates well to business.
Yeah, I think some of it does directly correlate to business, but some of it, as I learned, starting a business here in Calgary, and running it, kind of during the last half of my career, and then into retirement from hockey and transitioning into that. Some of it's very different, and it doesn't. With hockey, it was very immediate. The wins and losses. You're playing almost every other day, sometimes back to back. You win, you're happy. You move on. If you lose, you analyze a little bit more usually, and then you move on to the next game. But they keep coming at you very quickly. And then it's pretty linear in that, like, you get ready for the season. You're training. You're trying to get your body stronger, maybe work on any weaknesses that you felt you had the previous year. And then you get ready for training camp, and you're really trying to ramp up. If you're a new guy, you're trying to make a name for yourself in training camp. If you're an older veteran, you're just trying to just kind of work the kinks out of your body, and get going that way. And then you get going the regular season, and the regular season is a long kind of slog. The first 10 games are easy to play because you're fresh, you're excited mentally, you're ready for a new season. Everyone starts at square one again, zeros in the columns. But after those first 10 games, that's where you figure out those next 60 games. That's where you figure out who's who and who can do it at a high level for a continued long period of time. When you're traveling, you're tired, you're beat up, you're physically you're starting to get a toll. Mentally, you're starting to maybe things aren't going well, and you're facing some heat from media, fans. Maybe things aren't going well at home. You're facing some heat that way. But who can do it day in, day out? And that's when those 60 games, in my opinion, is where you separate the true professionals from the ones that are having a cup of coffee in the NHL. And then the last kind of 10, 15 games, you're getting ready for playoffs. So it's exciting. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you're getting ready to hopefully play really meaningful games in the playoffs. So that's what I always found. And then kind of like farming, guys, in that you're done at the end of the year. You bring the crop in at the end of the year. You get to hang out for a little bit, and then next year you start fresh again, right? You start with a new field, that way. And that's what I found was really interesting about hockey. But where the small business that we had called Blue Line Oilfield Rentals, business could be infinite, guys. Like if you put the right team in place and the strategies, and that takes months sometimes that way. And then you revisit if things are working. Really, your business could run for an infinite amount of time. So there are some subtle differences to hockey and business, and that was one of the reasons why I was so interested in doing it, because yes, some of it does correlate, but some of it you're learning on the fly. And to me, that really got the juices flowing.
Cool. What about tell us what it's like going on these deep playoff runs. Obviously, you do it in 04 with Calgary, and then you get a chance to play with the Kings and actually win the Stanley Cup. The last 15 games of the season, you mentioned you're gearing up for playoffs. There's probably a new wave of excitement that happens in the first round, especially. Fans are insane. As you go into the later rounds, is it just a grind? What's it like?
Yeah, so the last 10, 15 games in 2004, Daryl Sutter had called us into a meeting, and we had pretty regular meetings. We would have them every 5 games for our segments in the regular season. But he sat us all down and he just said, looked around to us all and said, "Who do you guys want to play? Who do you want to play in the playoffs, first round? Who do you think our best matchup is?" And for all of us, we said the Vancouver Canucks. We felt that they were going through a little bit of kind of turmoil, had some history of not doing that great in the playoffs, and just we felt very comfortable with that matchup in the first round. And he agreed with us. He said that's who we want to play. So we didn't, that year in 2004, I believe we didn't wrap up a playoff spot till game 80, I believe it was. So really only 2 games left after that. So very late. And then we obviously got the matchup we wanted to with the Canucks. And, there were things, the game within the game. I think that was Kluche at that time was in net. He'd let in a softie from Lidstrom. I believe it was the year before, from like
Yeah.
center ice.
Yeah.
And so if you notice in that series, anytime we got over the red line, we pretty much shot the puck in on them, just to, as a little reminder of, that, and all those little psychological type of games, they have a tendency to chip away at somebody or at teams over a 7-game series. And, it was a hard fought series, one that, Brendan Morrison, I believe it was, scored in double overtime, I think double or maybe triple in Calgary in game 6 to push the series to 7. And then the craziness with, the Canucks scoring late in game 7 and Jovanovski in the penalty box still. And then Marty Jelena with his heroics. Like it was a wild, wild series. But one that very fond memories, as I really don't like the Canucks. So, really good that way. As for LA, it was a little bit different in that, I was there. I got traded in 2013. We lost in the Western Conference Final that year to Chicago. They went on to win the Cup. And then the next year in 2014, we were getting ready for the playoffs, but we could not move. Our matchup was already set with the San Jose Sharks in the first round in 2014, very early on. And if you look back on that, I think it was the last 7 or 8 games, the Kings, we played awful. And I think we lost 5 out of the last 7, or there was a significant amount of we didn't play well. And because there was really no motivation. And that affected us big time in the first 2 games of that series in that playoffs. If you look back on that, we played in San Jose the first 2 games, and we got absolutely blown out of the rink. And it was still, kind of those bad habits that we had that we let creep into the game at the end of the regular season that were affecting us. And Daryl kept harping on us for attitude. Change that attitude, have a better attitude. And game 3, we played in LA. I believe we lost in overtime, or it was a very close game, but we played a much better game. And then we were down 3-0, obviously. So pretty big hole, but we had played just a much, much better game, and we built on that. And then we won game 4 and then won game 5. And then the momentum, we had the momentum, and the Sharks were on their heels, and ended up, we became part of history in that.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the only 4th team in NHL history to come back from a 3-0 deficit. So very, very different kind of feel to that team. And then, for me as an individual, I got hurt. My knee got hurt in Anaheim that next series, but the guys had started building momentum, and it was a great group. One that we won Game 7 on the road in Series 1 in San Jose. They won Game 7 on the road in Series 2 against Anaheim, and then won Game 7 on the road in Chicago with Alec Martinez in overtime. Like, just a really cool group. And really, if you look back on that one, it was the third series, the Chicago series, that was, kind of the clincher, because Chicago was in the heyday as well. So was LA. And that was really when, I don't want to say, the Rangers were nothing. It was close games, but that really LA Chicago series in that conference final, if you ever have a chance to see that one on NHL replays or whatever, it was a heck of a series.
Yeah, you guys were just cruising. It wasn't Corey Perry that hurt your knee, was it?
No, I hate Corey Perry, but no, it wasn't. I just, man, I can't cheer for that guy.
Oh man,
No.
I wish you were still back there on the blue line laying him out every
Yeah.
game. Man, I'd love to. Now that he's in Edmonton, we need you back there. Suit up for a couple games. Just cream the guy. Please.
I do. One of the questions a lot of people ask me after I got done playing is, what do you miss? What do you miss from the game? And I really do miss the physicality part, the challenge of a coach. And I loved it when a coach came up to me and my partner and said, it's your job to shut down the Sedins or Hemsky or whatever line it was. Shut down that line and make it difficult on them, make it hard on them. And so for me, that personal challenge, I love that, and I really missed it. And I don't know what that says about me as a human being, that I felt warm and fuzzy inside when you're making it really difficult on people out there. But that was something that you could do at that point, and do it within the let's call them guidelines. It was a kind of a gray area there. You try to make it as hard as possible on them, without taking a bunch of penalties. And sometimes you do, sometimes you cross over to that. But, you talk to players that played against us here in Calgary at that time. And Darryl Sutter used to harp on the identity of the team. Do you have an identity? What is it? I want you guys to be hard to play against. And you start talking to some of these players that would come into Calgary, and they said it without even prompting. They said, we hated coming into Calgary. You guys played hard, you hit, you forechecked, you played hard in your own zone. You just made it so it was a really miserable time there. And that made me feel happy and smile, because then you have that over top of your opponent, and you can use that. And if you look back on our record when Darryl was here, when I was here, we absolutely smoked the Oilers. Our record against the Oilers was outstanding. And, it was because he came in and said, you know what, guys, it's us or them. Like, they're trying to take a spot in the playoffs, and we want it, and it's us or them. And simple as that. So I love that. I miss that.
I love that. It's amazing. I think if you asked Al Shemsky, maybe he'd say the opposite. His favorite part of being retired is not having to deal with the physicality.
Yeah, I like to think maybe I'm partially responsible for one or two of his shoulder surgeries, but yeah, well, who knows? But yeah, those, for us, I think there was a little bit more animosity maybe back then. And I think if you look at the game of hockey over kind of the previous 30 years, 40 years, you're seeing a little bit more of that disappear as they kind of take some of the physicality out of it. And you can have a conversation whether it's right or wrong or this or that. It's just the evolution of hockey, and hockey has always evolved. It will continue to evolve, and that's the way they want the game to be for a variety of reasons, right? They want less injuries and things like that, protecting the star players. But I really enjoyed that kind of the challenge, the physicality of it. And now I have to try to, get that out some other way, some other legal way that I can do that on a daily basis. But it was sure a lot of fun to be a part of when we had a chance with with, you know, a really fun group, a group that faced adversity here in Calgary. It wasn't always great, you know, the ups and downs of it. But back to what you guys had mentioned, when you go through some of those ups and downs, and you're with each other so much, whether it's at the rink or on the bus or the airplane or whatever it is, you really create some very good, strong ties to one another.
That the tunnel of doom. So if you're the opposing on the forwards on the opposing team coming down the right wing, coming down on your wing, I know like Alex Hemsky, you obviously had a hate on for that guy, but he wasn't the only one. How did that start with Alex Hemsky? He cross-checked you or something, and that just grew from there. It just seemed to, I don't know. It was awesome to watch. You just knew that when the Oilers were coming in, or you were going to play in the Oilers, it was going to be a one-on-one matchup between you two guys.
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, he was one of their best players at that time, and you know, for us, I was usually on the number one pairing. So you're matched up against whoever the coaches want you to play against, and for me, that happened to be usually his line, and yeah, it started really, my huge hatred for him started in Calgary, in the corner, on the Zamboni end, in the one corner. And I went to hit him one shift, and I got close to him. And just as I came up to hit him, he brought his stick up and he cross-checked me right in the throat, in the Adam's apple. And I had a hard time breathing for a few seconds, and you know, kind of collected myself. He didn't get a penalty for that. He was kind of sneaky that way. And so I just always remember, like, when something like that happens, you know, you remember it. And so um, every time, like before the game, I tried to use that and other things as a motivating factor. And you know, for me, you know, he had a lot of good speed. He had good skill, but the trick was to try to force him to go outside with a decent gap in the neutral zone, and force him to go outside and make him feel like, you know, there was a chance that he could drive wide and potentially get to the net. And then it just became a game of angles after that, where, you know, you have to pivot and turn, and still, you know, back then you could still get away with a little bit of holding too. And once you got a hold of him, and on the right angle, you just keep that, and it's just a matter of the boards are there. They're in a fixed position, glass. And you know, after that, I was thinking, I'm going to try to stuff this guy into the glass and through one of those little stanchions, try to fit him through one of those tight little stanchions and put him into the seats. And that's what I tried to do. And but you know, really, it's very basic, guys, and a lot of that comes down to just really good gaps as a defenseman, which are set on the blue line and neutral zone, and skating and angles. Like that's really and you're seeing that more and more now, where there's less open ice hitting. And I'm trying to teach that to our younger son, who you're a little bit playing hockey, but just get an angle and be able to skate, and you know, you'll be able to create some contact and eventually get the puck back too. So yeah, that was a really fun part of hockey. But you know, you have to remember too, like, that stuff, it takes a toll on the opposition, but it also takes a toll on your body as well, kind of banging and crashing. So you know, you have to remember that it's not all positive.
I know we miss that kind of hockey. I think that's, you know, you're talking about identity of a team. I think that's why, for us at least, in our generation of fans, why we loved that era of team so much, was because you guys played that way. That was your identity. You were, like you said, you come to Calgary, you got to bring your lunch buckets, and you're gonna leave black and blue whether you win or lose. We really missed that here. I just remember, like, Tunnel of Doom. It was like you could either go to Regehr's side and get plowed, or you go over to Phaneuf's on the ice. I remember Dion hit Anze Kopitar, rode him into the glass so hard once, it scared the shit out of me. Man, I miss those days. I miss watching you guys just take care of mostly Oilers guys, but anybody. Man, oh man.
Oh yeah, or there was another one, like Giordano and Dustin Brown had a
Yeah.
thing going on too. Like, they were going at each other, and stuff. But I think what it was, and fans would know this better than I would. I was, sometimes when you're playing, you get hyper focused on what's going on the ice and that. But I think the fans enjoyed the fact that our team, first of all, worked hard. They knew that we were going to work hard. They knew that we would be physical and finish our checks and forecheck hard, and also they knew that if a team came in and was really playing well and started to run things up on the scoreboard, for example, it didn't happen often, but it did. We would probably have something to say about that. And there was usually fights. We had a very tough team as well. A lot of people kind of forget that, but we had a very tough team. And so we wouldn't make it easy. Like if you're going to come in and try to beat us on the scoreboard that way, we were going to give you some bumps and bruises. And so, kind of a really tough team overall to play against. And we enjoyed that. And that was demanded by Daryl on down. And, we all bought into that as players. And when you can get a group of players, really a bunch of individual contractors, because if everyone signs 1-year deals, we're all individual contractors. You can get us to come together and believe in something and really kind of believe collectively towards it and work towards it. That's a pretty powerful thing. And he was able to do that here.
That's awesome. Yeah, we often say that the only more satisfying thing than beating a team is kicking their ass while you do it.
Well, you know what? Yeah, and that has something to say, right? Like people remember that. Players remember that. Coaches remember that. You remember if you came into a building and whether it was an easy game or a hard game, and that stuff. I don't think a lot of maybe let's call them the casual fan outside of hockey or on the peripheral kind of appreciates that fact of it, that the way that you play teams and the way you beat them, that either helps or hinders you down the road. You look at the other side of that. We'll look at Calgary down in Anaheim for years.
Yeah.
We really struggled. I was gone for I think a good chunk of that, but I was part of the start of that. Like I forget how many games it was down in Anaheim that we lost, and there were times where we were up and we just found a way to lose just because that's in the back of your
Right.
mind, and you feel, oh, they get one break here or there and you're still up, but you're like, oh, here we go again. Like it's the mental side of the game, and that stuff is really important. It's way more important, I think, than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, I think it was it 19 games straight or something?
Dude,
It's
I think it
crazy,
was
yeah.
more than that. I think it was like 30 or something.
It felt like 30.
It was between 2004 and like 2017 or something that they didn't. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, but that just goes to show you the kind of power of sport. And we weren't a bad team, or the Flames didn't have a bad team in there. Like Anaheim had some strong teams, but still, it was just that when you get on that type of slide and you have that kind of in the back of your mind, like it's very, very negative.
And you've got that little rat Perry over there all the time, eh?
You're just making my blood pressure rise.
Just it's like Beetlejuice. Just say the name, eh?
Say the name one more time and you mentioned
yeah, like it just that guy, like I know we had battles because at one point he was a very good player, effective player, but yeah, the guy could, like him and Pronger could take like they could have given him a penalty almost every shift, slashing, bumping into goalies and this and that, but they were very effective players too, so it made it kind of just way more annoying that way. He wasn't a bit player on a team. Like they were significant players, ones that were very successful. But yeah, you just match up against those guys and the hatred, and yeah, I think it led to better hockey personally.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well, Gets left too. Saskatchewan boy, like he's playing pretty hard too. He used his stick a lot.
He was pretty dirty.
Yeah.
He'd always target Goudreau.
Oh yeah, old Getsy.
So we mentioned you keeping in touch with former players. What about Connie and Iggy? Obviously, they continue their careers. Connie more so in the management than Iggy so far, anyways. Connie gets promoted to GM. How do you feel about seeing these guys coming back into the organization and taking another stab at when it's down the cup.
Yeah, well, we used to live actually not far from where Craig and Jesse live here in Northwest Calgary, and they have three daughters, great girls, and a couple of them actually helped us out when our kids were younger, and they would come over and babysit, look after our boys. So we had a good relationship with them, still do. I was really happy to see Craig get promoted to general manager. The reason being is that you know I know he loves Calgary, loves the team, but I feel he really put in the time and effort to learn the business, and he, I believe, worked for 10 to 12 years with the Flames in a variety of different roles, learning the business before eventually being promoted. And I think that speaks a lot to his dedication to the team, to the city, and also to a willingness to learn. I think it's extremely important that he learned the other parts of the business before becoming general manager. Then you have a better understanding of what's going on, and a better ability to make decisions and how that's going to affect the business. So very, very happy for him. You know, with Jerome, I didn't talk to Jerome a lot when he was down in the US, because he'd spent time in Colorado, a little bit in LA, and then Boston. And I think they'd gone back to Boston for their kids and, you know, kind of their school and development sports wise. But I've talked to him more recently in the last couple of years. He came to one of our Flames alumni golf tournaments, which was really great to see him. And now he's part of, you know, being an advisor to Craig there. So I see him a little bit more now, kind of around town. The latest, where a lot of us got together at the Mika Kiprusoff jersey retirement, which was an awesome event. You know, to have him back, to have him speak for as long as they did, like, that was amazing to me. But the Flames did, I thought, a really great job of the whole event, and seeing all those former teammates was very, very special, and kind of just reminiscing, sitting around for a couple of days and reconnecting was really cool. So I'm happy to see those two involved. There is no shortage of challenges with this current Flames team. You know, they for whatever reason, they've decided, or previously, to not really do a full rebuild for many years. They kind of went along the middle, and that's really tough situation to be in. You know, with the salary cap world, it's very challenging. If you look at most of the teams that have done well here, not all, but most, in say the last 10-15 years, they've gone through a period of bottoming out for 3 or 4 years to, you know, stockpile some very high draft picks and pick some really great players that you can build a team around. And the Flames had decided to do it another way, and it's led to some real big challenges here. So Craig has a lot on his plate, and, you know, he's trying to do the best he can. But I'm really happy to see that he's in the chair he's in, and I hope he does really well.
Yeah, we think he's doing a great job so far. He sounds like you could give him a few tips here. Sounds like you're pretty on top of. Does he ever shoot you a text and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?"
No, I try to stay out of that. You know, I'm very heavily involved in the alumni with, as I mentioned previously, the golf tournament, and also our alumni executive. So that's one area that was kind of the importance is instilled into me by, let's call it, the 1989 group of players, the significant group that is still living around Calgary here. So, you know, everyone from Lanny McDonald, Colin Patterson, Joel Otto, Perry Bearzan, you name it, all down the line. you know, they are very, very involved in the community, and now they're trying to help us, you know, let's call it the 2004 group, kind of continue that, because if not, that dies on the vine. So the importance of that, the importance from even when I first started playing here in Calgary, the Harley Hotchkisses, the Doc Siemens, you know, those people, I remember having the conversation, guys, with these owners, and they said, we want to bring an NHL team to Southern Alberta, not just for the NHL hockey, but we want to make Calgary a better place. We want to make it a better community. We want to make Southern Alberta a better place. So we, as players, were instilled in that by those owners. And, you know, that's led to a very active alumni, one that, you know, our executive, I think we allocate about $175,000 a year to different charitable organizations around Calgary and Southern Alberta. We did, you know, we've been averaging about 150,000 with the golf tournament this year. We got 225, so that was awesome. So that went to CP kids and families here in Calgary. Like that type of stuff, guys, is where my kind of heart is at now. Not on day-to-day operations of the team, even though, you know, being a former player, you're still, you know, you want them to do well. You want the team to do well. But I don't really have any sort of pull from inside of me to feel like I want to be back there day to day.
Yeah, I think you're exactly where you need to be. But hey, sounds like you have a good handle on things. So whatever comes up, we want to see you and Connie and Iggy all back together.
There's always challenges. And you know, I think Craig is, you know, he's got to manage the team up, and he's got to manage the team down, you know, and that's what I think the best general managers, they're good managers on the way up and down, and not just always down. So that's one of the things that's very important, and especially having an ownership group like he does, and with you know, certain members very involved. But it's exciting here in Calgary, I think, because I'm hoping he can build the team up in the next 3 to 4 years to coincide with the new arena. Like that's a very good opportunity here in Calgary. And I know it's been a long slog with, is the deal on again, off again, for a variety of reasons. But if anyone ever has a chance to go around and watch NHL hockey at different venues, we are in we're so badly needed a new arena. Like our rink here was just, I know there's a lot of emotion with Calgarians, and, you know, the Saddle Dome and the way the way it looks, and the architectural, and, you know, all the feelings with it. But the rink was, it needs to go. Like it's old. It's, you know, for fan experience, both in the rink and outside, all these other rinks in the NHL, and you don't have far to go 2.5 hours up the highway. And it's amazing what they've done there in a very challenging spot of downtown Edmonton. But they've created a really good atmosphere there with that rink. And it's tough for me to say because it's Edmonton, but I'll give them credit. And so I think that we have a lot of work to do here, but I think that, you know, if Craig can get the team to improve, we can get that new building on, it'll lead to hopefully some really positive, fun times down at the Saddle Dome. And you know, I think the big thing is if you go down to the States, with any sporting event down in the States, they create excitement outside of the rink, outside of the sporting venue, that kind of filters into the venue. And they do that in a way in the US, typical US fashion. But we're really missing that here in Calgary. And I think that's what you're seeing with a lot of these venues. They're trying to build out around them, create. And I saw that in LA with LA Live. They did a great job. So I'm really excited. But it's going to take years. Like it's going to take a long time here. But yeah, hopefully we're on the right path.
Well, all signs seem to be pointing in that direction. Yeah, Vegas and even Seattle, the two newest teams in the NHL, they sure make a spectacle out of, well, especially Vegas, make a spectacle out of every game.
Yeah, like a number of years ago, we took our kids to Vegas to watch a game, and we walked from NGM all through, the walking casinos, that, and then you walk by and eventually you get to the rink, and it was amazing. Like like even the walk was worth half the price of admission. The amount of stuff that you see,
Yeah,
especially in Vegas, walking around there. But then you get to the rink, and the level of entertainment at the
yeah,
rink, before the game, during the game, was on another level. And they truly realize in the US that it's a sporting entertainment. It's not just the sport of hockey, which, yes, we have more knowledgeable fans here in Canada, for the ins and outs of the game, but they for them it's entertainment first and foremost, and they do a really great job of it.
Yeah, I'm
yeah. That
sure
was
for a
pretty.
player perspective too, eh? Like, does anybody remember when Uyghur showed up here and he goes like he's in the dressing room and it's like it was on YouTube and everyone was like, "Whoa, that's the Flames dressing room." Sheesh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it is. So when I talk to people around Calgary, um, all that has a factor, as players, because you have lots of friends in and around the league. When you're talking to one another, how are you guys treated there? How's the dressing room? How's this? How's that? Like all that is a factor when players are looking to make changes, to move around, things like that. So by getting a new building and kind of creating hopefully a more competitive team, which is up to Craig and the coaching staff. All that's going to really, really help, and it'll help attract players. And there's other things that we can't do much about, the weather and tax situation and things like that. That's all dealt with by other entities and that. But there's certain things that you can, and kind of the better we have facilities here, the more excitement that's going to create for players.
Yeah, Connie just seems still so full of energy. We had a bash on one of the newer prospects, and the young guys seem to love him. He's so positive, pumping everybody up. I don't know if that's necessarily changed. That's a hilarious story of when the Flames first acquired Conroy between him and Iginla, and Iginla was pissed off because he he thought he
He's a
was a plug.
checker. Yeah, he's a
Oh
He thought
plug.
he
yeah,
was a
plugger.
plug, but he
Yeah.
he turned out to be a pretty valuable piece of everything that happened. What can you tell us about Conroy as a character, as a human being, and as a teammate, and what you think he is as a GM?
Well, guys, like that just I would say is the epitome of a general manager making a hockey decision, right? Like if you look at that deal probably from an analytics point of view, which a lot of people are kind of trending towards, and there's some importance to that. I'm not saying I'm discounting that totally, but how do you put a price or a factor of importance on a personality of a player like that, right? Where you have arguably one of the best players in the league at the time, Jerome McGinley, captain of the team, who's visibly disappointed that the team has traded for this player, as I'm sure most fans were probably that way. And then here you have this American-born player show up who is just a spark plug of a person, like the energy, the excitement, the enthusiasm. How do you value that? You really have to do a lot of homework on the player, and I think that was done, and he fit right into what the team was looking for, and adding, and that wasn't an easy situation for Craig. Like you have a very demanding player that you're playing with, and a high level player. That's a huge pressure situation for him, and he was not only able to meet that, he was able to exceed it, and eventually kind of galvanize that relationship, right? Like they were two peas in a pod eventually. So I think that was really cool. I think that's one of the reasons why there's still a lot of there's a very big importance on that type of stuff one that you can't get from some of these percentages of, defensive zone starts, or, bringing pucks into the, like, that Craig Conroy brought so much, he brought so much, so many other things to the team as an individual than anyone really knew he would. And it was just such a pleasant surprise. And he's still doing that as a general manager.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see, like you mentioned, not only building excitement, and it's interesting you're so cognizant of this. Just, you referenced building a team through the draft and, bottoming out or whatnot. I remember you had kind of seen the writing on the wall when the Flames were kind of, nobody really knew what the plan was in kind of like the mid 2000s. I think right around the time you got traded, it was like, what are we doing here? Like, we got eliminated in the first round. We're missing the playoffs. Mike Keenan's the coach. What's going on? Nobody knows what's going on. There wasn't a clear direction. I know as a fan, that's incredibly important. And that's why we're also excited, because Connie's come in and he's, set a clear course of action. I'm just curious, like, go back to that time. I know, like, Jay Feaster took over. There was a lot of uncertainty. How are you feeling? It was a weird time, I remember, as a fan. So what were those conversations like leading up to? I've heard you speak about it a little bit, like you had kind of seen this coming a little bit, even though the trade maybe caught you off guard overall. What were those conversations like heading up to that? Like, I know the Keenan stuff was a disaster, a bit of a nightmare. Those teams are really good. Those teams, I feel like, you look back, I'm sure you feel the same way. You look back at the personnel, it was like you and Iggy and a lot of really good players on those teams should have looked like they should have. Mika, obviously, Dion was still there, I think, at that point. Just felt like you guys really, you should have been in Stanley Cup contention, if not going deep into the playoffs, and just never really materialized.
Yeah, underperformance, I think, would be the best way to characterize it. So, from my personal perspective, Mike Keenan, probably the worst coach I've ever had in the NHL, and for a variety of reasons. He would play the top guys. He would play like crazy, and the bottom six forwards or the bottom two defensemen, he would whip those people, whip them as players, as people, like crazy. And I just don't think that's the way you do it. As a team that you want to succeed, you have to treat the individuals. We spoke a little bit about it before. You're trying to bring together a bunch of individuals collectively to reach certain goals together. And by treating players so differently, depending on kind of where they were on the pay scale, or how much they were playing and how much they weren't playing, it was really created division within the team. And I didn't like that at all. So, at that point in my career, I was confident enough to voice my displeasure. And if, we kind of talked about Daryl Sutter, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Daryl Sutter. I think he's one of the best coaches I've ever had in the NHL. But as a general manager, he made some very poor decisions. As a GM, Daryl was very weak, and he made some poor decisions in providing long-term contracts with no trades, no movements, things like that, that really put the Flames in a very poor situation. So, with all that kind of stuff happening, and then some changes with Feaster, you mentioned, coming in, and that, it just wasn't a good situation. We were underperforming. We had very limited moves that we could make. And Jay and I had a long conversation after the offseason that one year. And he picked my brain for about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. And then I put the shoe on the other foot and said, hey, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to make this team better? And the answers that he provided, which were trying to move a few guys that had no trade clauses, just didn't suffice to me. And I said, well, I'm getting older. you know, I want to win. Like, it's about winning. You know, you're in the seventh inning of your career, if not later. It's about winning. It's not about trying to make as much money as you can, or playing in a place where, you know, you get to come to the rink in your convertible and sandals every day. Like, it's not. It's about winning. And for me, it was about winning. So I just said to him, hey, if there's a possibility to look at an option where we could have a chance to win, I would be open to it. That's all I said. I didn't demand anything. I'm not that type of person who would demand something. But what happened was very disappointing, in that, like, I had a no movement clause. And if a player has a no trade or no movement, usually the general manager, then if they want to move you, they talk to you as a player and as your agent, and you try to work together to come to a solution that works for everyone involved, works for the team, salary cap wise, player wise, works for the player and the family, you know, with that, and also performance team wise. So that didn't happen. I left that meeting and my phone didn't ring till June. I think that was April until June, right before the draft. And Jay just said, you know, we want to trade you to Buffalo. Will you waive your no movement? And I was like, I was completely blindsided by it, because there was no collaboration whatsoever. So my agent got very mad and very disappointed that when I told him what was said, and so he just said, wait, don't do anything, wait. And he actually leaked the story to TSN, to Darren Dreger, I think it was at the time. And he's like, I'm going to do this because then all the teams in the NHL will know that you're available, and you know, you can then look at all options, because really the Flames had limited our options in just saying, we want to trade you to Buffalo, that's it. So what the agent was doing was just kind of opening up the field to all options, which we did for a number of days. And I was very upfront with Buffalo. I said, this is nothing against you guys, or the city, the team, anything. It's just more for our sake, right? Like, we gave up a significant amount of money for no movement clause and to work with the GM collaboratively, and that didn't happen. So we were now taking matters into our own hands, so to speak, where, you know, you're just trying to open things up. And so we kind of did it that way, whether you agree with it or not. You know, it was what we felt at the time would allow us to kind of look at the best options, which we did. We knew San Jose was interested, but they wouldn't take Kodalik and bury his contract like Buffalo would, and a variety of factors. So ultimately, you know, we did decide to go to Buffalo, even though, you know, we tried to explore. The Flames wouldn't look at anything else. And, you know, to go out of conference to the East was something that was new and exciting for us. And I'd never lived out there. Our family had never lived in the US before. You know, there's all these things that completely changed the experience of hockey. And then ultimately it helped lead to coming back to the Western Conference, which I was comfortable with, because I struggled out East. I didn't know the players as much, didn't know the tendencies, all that, and struggled with the style of play. But we got back to LA, where under Daryl again, who plays with demands a lot of structure, plays aggressive, like I like. So it's amazing how things work, but it was kind of a long, winding road that way. And, you know, it left a kind of bitter taste in my mouth with Jay Feaster, not with Calgary, not with the Flames or anything like that. It was more just Jay not doing things the way that he should have. And, you know, I don't know why he did that. But that was the kind of the hand that we were dealt, and we tried to make the best of it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it sucked to see you go. I remember the two like gut punches trades wise after like the 04 kind of era was, I remember when Andy Ferentz and Chuck Kobasu got traded, I was like gutted. And then when you got traded, it was just like, oh man, it's all falling apart. So I remember that sucked. But hey, it ended up in Stanley Cups for both of you and Ferentz. So that was always cool to see. Just I know you've mentioned Daryl a little bit. I'm just curious, like you've mentioned the identity, him playing with structure. What makes you've had so much success under him under your career? And we saw him have so much success here in Calgary as a coach. I know GM, like you said, not so much. But what about him as a coach do you like so much?
Well, first of all, you have to understand how Daryl grew up in order to kind of deal with him. So Daryl grew up in a family, a very demanding family. What they have, 7 boys. I think there were 7 boys. 6 of them played in the NHL. But he grew up in a family with all boys where they were never given, just handed anything. They had to kind of fight, claw, earn everything that they got. And so um, they would fight a lot, like as boys do. And think of it this way, like in the barn where they had their rink set up. Do you think any of his brothers at any point felt sorry for him when if he didn't have the puck and be like, oh hey Daryl, here, like we'll just give you the puck because you're sad in the corner, right? Like, no, like you had to go earn it. You had to go battle and work your butt off and earn that puck back. And if you look at how Daryl operates as a coach and as a person, if you understand that, you can really make inroads. So, a guy like Jonathan Huberdeau, for example, do you think that he stood up to Daryl? Like, and you have to stand up to him, right? Because he's pushing you as his brothers pushed him. No, he didn't. Dustin Brown was the same way in LA. He didn't really stand up to Daryl. As soon as you stand up to Daryl, which I did in Calgary, and I still remember the time. I came in after a game and he went after, a couple players and, challenged them. And the last one was me. And I didn't feel like that was warranted the way I'd played. And so after he got up and went into his back room to go watch some video, I stood up and I followed him. I didn't want to do it in front of everyone else. Didn't need to, but it was between him and I. And so we went back there and we went at it. And, for about 10 minutes, there was a video guy there that was pretending not to be there. I think he was looking for one of those little buttons that you push that, there's a trap door that you can just disappear. But we went at it and it was heated for 10 minutes. And I walked out of there and, wasn't able to sleep that night. Thought I was getting traded for sure and this and that. And I'll never forget, walked in the next day to the rink and Daryl's door was open and I walked by and was going in the back and then I hear his voice calling me into his office and he says, sit down. So I sat down, I looked at him and he looks over at me and all he said was, I'm proud of you. And that was it. And there was this long, awkward silence after that. And I just sat there and stared at him and then I just got up and walked out and got ready for practice. And that's what he was looking for. He pushes you until you push back. And then he knows that you're in it with him. You're there. And so, after that, it was fine with him. And so that was an experience I had. And then the other thing is you understand after all that, why he deals with young players the way he does. Daryl never will give just give something to a player, especially a young player. You have to earn that opportunity. And I think that's a lot of people got frustrated with Daryl, here in Calgary because he wasn't, giving these opportunities out like crazy to a bunch of these young players. Well, he felt that they had to earn them. He had to earn that opportunity. And once you do earn that, what are you going to do with it? Are you gonna continue to work hard and perform and kind of earn more ice time and his respect, or not? And once you have his respect, you'll have that, as we talked about the loyalty, you will have that for forever. So I think all those things kind of led to some really good things, but also some real big frustration with some of the fans here and some of the players here. But all they had to do was understand, how did Daryl grow up? What was his family situation like? What is he demanding? Why is he demanding it? And you have to understand that. You don't have to just go run to your agent and say, oh, he's being super negative. Can you go talk to him for me? That's the worst possible thing you could do. just go in and have a conversation with the guy, man to man, like, and person to person, and hash it out. Like, and sometimes you agree with it, sometimes you don't, but at least that way you're creating a back and forth. You're creating some respect back and forth, and you can kind of go from there. And players that can do that will thrive under Daryl Sutter. Players that can't do that, that run and hide, or just don't have that ability to do that, or choose not to do that, or pick somebody else to do that for them, they're going to get steamrolled.
That's a pretty deep explanation of behind the inner workings of Daryl Sutter. Appreciate that. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate you coming on here, everything you did as a Flame and everything you continue to do for the city. With all the reuniting of Craig and Iggy and the Sutter a few years ago, Jelena behind the scenes. We've often joked that it'd be cool just to bring all the old guys back and run the franchise. So maybe there's a spot for you to teach the lost art of the tunnel of doom to these young kids. But
oh guys, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm happy that those players or former players are doing that on the hockey ops side. For me, I'm more happy being on the alumni side, being involved in the community, really trying to do some good things here in Calgary and Southern Alberta. So I appreciate those words, but that's where I'm spending my time and energy. And, it also frees me up to be more involved with our kids day to day. We didn't talk about that, the amount of time that these guys have to put in at the rink on the management side and coaching side. My wife said at the end of my career, oh, you should get involved with coaching, as kind of a comment. And I said, do you realize they're at the rink before the players and they're at the rink after the players? They're there way more than we are. And she's like, oh yeah, I didn't really think of that. So, they're committed, they're putting the time in, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And, if you have a chance to come up and be say hi to alumni or be involved with the alumni, share some stories with the alumni, positive, negative, whatever it is. Please don't be afraid to do that, because a lot of us are in the community. We got about 120, 130, I think, players in and around Calgary, and about 60 of us are very, very active. And it's a great kind of organization to be a part of.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. We really appreciate all you guys do. The alumni is great. And, the organization's great. And it's, anytime we see you, or I know I see Glenn Cross from time to time around the city, it's always cool. So we really appreciate it. What are you got any plans for the rest of summer? You going to the lake? Are you back in Calgary for a while? What's going on?
Well, we're heading to Golden this weekend. Our oldest son got invited out to be one of his volleyball buddies. They have a place out there. So I love mountain biking. So we're gonna take our mountain bikes out there, do a little bit of riding out there. I'm a big slalom skier, so water skier. So I ski down at Predator Bay here a little bit early summer, and then back in Saskatchewan. So September long weekend, we always have a ski tournament back at Emma Lake called the Melross Open. So I'm going to go pull. I've got a Malibu Response there. I pulled last year the tournament and skied in it, and I'll probably pull it again and ski in it as well. I'm the defending champion, so I better show up and ski in it. So it's a lot of fun. We talked about those things. There's lots of fun stuff to do, and I try to keep very busy with it. And following our boys around. Hockey tryouts, our young guys trying out for the North Stars. He's going into U15 this year. That's the old bantam for all of us old people, and hitting first year hitting and stuff like that. So it'll be kind of interesting to watch those tryouts coming up. And yeah, lots going on. Really, really positive stuff. So being involved and engaged with that, which is good.
Beautiful. Well, we really appreciate your time. Loved hearing from you. You have some great insights, and I still miss watching you play. So I'm gonna go watch some highlights after. I'm gonna just Robyn Regehr highlights. So really appreciate it, man.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. It
Take
was a
care.
lot of
Take
fun.
care.
Okay.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.